Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Clown-versations. It's just a conversation with a fellow clown. It's not very serious, we're clowning around. It's really just a clown-versation. Yay, hooray, welcome everybody. So good to have you here. What's going on in your clown world? Do you even have a clown world? Are you even a clown? Even if you are or aren't, you're so welcome to Clown-versations today. I am Barnaby. I am the founder of Clown Spirit, where we take the power of clowning and we use it to bring lightness, joy, and connection into your life and the lives of everybody around you. And today, I am very, very honored and excited, although I'm trying to resist using that word excited because I think it's very overused. Everyone always says they're excited about everything. How did that happen? I remember when we didn't say that, and now everyone's saying it. So why are we excited? What's going on? Is it something? What does excitement mean? Does it mean like enthusiastic? Does it mean anxious? Is it positive? Is it negative? I don't know, but everyone's saying it. Everyone always begins. If you listen to almost any podcast or interview, they always start with, I'm very excited to introduce my guest today. So this morning I said to myself, I'm not going to use that word anymore. I'm going to find some other word. And there I just said it again. So obviously it's in the zeitgeist and I just can't help it. But I am also, what am I? I am honored. I am privileged. I'm interested. I'm curious. I'm intrigued. I am inspired by the work of my two guests today. I have two guests. Yes, you heard correctly. I normally have one guest on Clown-versations, and I'm trying to mix it up. I'm trying to have more actual conversation, so it's not just me and a guest, but have almost more like a panel conversation or panel discussion kind of feeling to it. And maybe this is because we're building up to the Clown-vergence conference, and that's going to be all about panel discussions. If you don't know about Clown-vergence, you can check it out on our website, which is clown-spirit.com, and you'll find the link to Clown-vergence right there. It is a 3-day, well, sort of 3 days plus an opening ceremony day, happening from the 9th to the 12th of April. And we have a whole ton of incredible panels, workshops, provocations, energizers. We have some really fantastic clowns who are going to be taking part in that, like big names, Jeff Johnson, Nola Ray, Avner Eisenberg, Ira Seidenstein, Gadi Hutter, hopefully, fingers crossed. Who else? Lee DeLong, Hernan Janae, Shannon Calcutt, Patrick Vandenboom. These are just names that are coming off the top of my head, and there's many, many more, so apologies. Holly Stoppett. It's just all the important, significant people in the clown world are going to be there. And we hope that you are going to be there also to enjoy the conversation, to enjoy the workshops, but also to participate and contribute yourself. There's going to be clown cafes every day. And a clown cafe is like a community gathering. We gather together, we reflect, we connect, we break out into small rooms, and we meet new people and talk about what we saw today and ideas that are kind of bubbling up. It's a great space of connection. So please, if you haven't already, check it out on the website, Clown-vergence 2026, and you can register there. It's completely free to register. We do give you the opportunity to offer a voluntary donation to help with costs. But, we completely understand if that's not possible for you right now, and we really appreciate the people who do give a contribution as well. The way I see it, the people who pay for things are actually paying for the people who can't pay, and that's perfectly all right. That's how the world should work, right? People who are in a position to be able to pay for things and are willing to helps people, helps other people who maybe aren't in a position to be able to pay or pay less or whatever it is. So if you're able to come to Clown-vergence, and whether or not you're able to contribute something, just by being there, you will be contributing. So that's Clown-vergence. And that was a bit of a detour to explain, in a way, why we're getting in the mood by having a panel discussion today. And the panel discussion is going to be on the very, very important topic of political clowning and what that exactly is, how clowning and activism and protest are being kind of brought together in very, very productive, creative ways by a lot of practitioners around the world. And, you know, we're going to be talking about this, but this practice really goes back a very, very long way. You could say thousands of years. You could say clowning has always been about activism and protest and speaking truth to power. You know, keeping people in power accountable by revealing things about them, or by standing up to them, by ridiculing them, by provoking conversation. More recently, you could say that a big inspiration for what's happening right now is an organization that sprang up in the 90s called Clandestine, Insurgent Rebel Clown Army. And the work that my two guests today are doing takes things in a new direction. So let me bring them on here. First of all, let me tell you a bit about them. ROBYN HAMBROOK is a Bristol-based director, teacher, performer, whose work sits at the intersection of clowning and politics. Her projects, she has an incredible amount of stuff going on, but some of them include the Nomadic Rebel Clown Academy, the Laboratory of the Unbeautiful, and the Clown Congress, which is coming up very soon, which is an annual gathering of clowns, activists, and academics exploring what it means to be a clown in our current era. And joining ROBYN, we also have ABBEY PLEVIAK, who trained with the Clandestine Insurgent Rebel Clown Army and later studied with Giovanni Fusetti, Sue Morrison, and others. She took a workshop with me, in fact, many years ago in Boulder. And she now hosts this fantastic thing called SCAMPS, which is an online open space where clowns, creatives, and strategists explore strategic, creative, nonviolent action rooted in freedom of speech and assembly. So please welcome to the Clown-versation stage, ABBEY PLEVIAK and ROBYN HAMBROOK.
Hey.
Welcome.
Hi.
I'm going to put myself down here because you guys are the stars of this show. Welcome, ROBYN and ABBEY. Great to have you here.
Thanks, Barney.
So let's just start with the basics here. Like, where in the world are you both based? ROBYN, tell us where you are and what's going on right now outside your house.
I'm in Bristol in the UK. That's kind of west of London. It's dark. It's cold. We had a promise of spring last week, and then just the last few days it's been rainy and freezing. So yeah, I've been tucked up in the house, escaping the cold.
Your heating is doing okay? I remember there's old house.
Yeah, still working. Still working overtime. Maybe
Good.
another month.
Good. And Bristol. So, and what about you, ABBEY? Where are you?
I'm in St. Augustine, Florida, which is on the Atlantic coast in Florida in the north. And this is the oldest continuously settled like European settlement on the continent. So it's a place with a lot of history in America. A lot of like the civil rights were very active here. And Right now it is sunny and beautiful. It was super windy last night, but today it's warm. The AC is on, actually. It's starting to get humid in Florida already.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, so opposite ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I'm in Portland, Oregon, and it's been really rainy and wet here lately as well. So more in common with Robyn in this moment. Let's get straight into it. I feel like we got so much to talk about, and we did a prep talk a few days ago, and just so much was coming up that was like, there's no way we're going to be able to deal with all this in an hour. But also, I just want to say hi to everybody watching and the folks who are in the chat already. Thanks for that. See messages from Jubilee Rose, Jeppe, am I saying that right? I don't know. Jules the Trickster, Victoria from Seattle. Excellent. Great to have you guys all here. Please do keep on popping your thoughts and questions into the chat, or just say hi. It's lovely to know that you're there. Let's start, you guys, by saying a little bit about why this is so important right now. Like, what is the situation as you see it? What are the challenges that we're facing, kind of on different levels in the world, in different parts of the world, that in a way might provide some context for why? Yeah, I mean, activism and protest is always important, right? But what is it specifically right now that is going on for you, or your sense of what is going on in the world, that we need to be urgently responding to? Maybe Robyn, would you mind starting, and then we'll bring Abby in? Yeah,
it feels like, Abby, you've got a lot more frontline things right now, but I think it's been bubbling away at the moment in the UK. Is they're just kind of throwing everything at us. It's like far right, it's Gaza protests, it's the whole political landscape is in flux. The protest landscape is in flux. So we're just in a moment where, like, how we are in public space, the space we can take up, is being challenged, and a lot of people are out there in the streets. And I think just, we're having a scattergun approach with just so many things we need to speak out about, that people are getting a bit tired, right? And a bit overwhelmed. And the thought of going to another protest and another, like, shouting slogans is it's a lot of work. And so why clowning for me has always been about offering another way to be in those spaces, in a different way, that's not within these binaries of protester and whatever we're protesting against. So it's about a different way of being, and actually needing that different way of being in the world generally, not just in protest. How we are in these times of so much crises, of like needing to build resilience, to have ways to keep ourselves sane, playful, connected, not checking out, not numbed, just like active.
Because well, and Abby, let me bring you in here, because sometimes it does feel very easy to just go numb, right? To kind of just like feel overwhelmed and go and curl up in a ball and hibernate. From where you are, either very locally or maybe on a national or international level, what are the pressing things for you that you're feeling that you need the clown to respond to?
Well, I think the world is just, there's just so much turmoil and upheaval right now. We're in another war. We've been supporting a genocide. Our country has been supporting a genocide in Palestine forever, and now we're fighting Israel's expansionist wars into the rest of the Middle East. We have an administration that does not respect the Constitution or constitutional rights. We have an active pseudo police force on the ground that's largely untrained, that's trampling the constitutional law. It's detaining citizens and non-citizens unlawfully. It's disappearing people. It's got inhumane conditions. It's really quite horrible what's going on. And I think with the release of the Epstein files, where a lot of people are kind of waking up to the fact that this isn't necessarily a left or a right issue, but this has been something that's been going on through many previous administrations. And, we had people in cages at the borders for, we have them now with Trump, we had them with Biden, we had them with Obama. And, at those times, I think people were saying, well, now it's the Democrats, they're doing the best they can, or now it's the Republicans, they're doing this because they're evil. It's the whole time it's been wrong. But now we're kind of reaching this critical mass where people are seeing that, it's time to stop. There's evidence, it's going too far. It's going too far.
I mean, yeah, it's not about the left and right anymore. But I still sense that, like, just in the choice of geographical areas that ICE is being focused, and other initiatives are being focused, there seems to be this kind of targeting of liberal area, like geographical areas, right, that are more liberal. So in a way, there's a sense that there's that I don't know, this the kind of victimization that's been around for years for minorities is suddenly like, oh, it's not just minorities, it's like a whole half of the country is potentially being oppressed, like actively, deliberately repressed, intimidated.
Yeah, absolutely. And they also are, they're unrolling the surveillance technology. They're also harassing people who are practicing their constitutional right of demonstration and following protesters to their homes and putting pressure on them. They're creating this massive database. They want us under control. I hate to just say they, but there is an elite class that doesn't really view us as valuable as human beings, and are interested in having what they want on their terms. And we're collateral damage. We've already had casualties here in America. There's, we've had the public casualties, but there's also the quiet casualties. There's a lot of people dying in ICE detention centers because they're not getting proper care.
Yeah, and as you say, as both of you have mentioned, this is just one aspect of a whole lot of really, really troubling developments. The whole Middle East situation is really terrifying and out of control, and and this sort of Epstein thing and what that is part of, in terms of billionaires being able to do what they want, and some of what they want is extremely dangerous. This creates a feeling in the air, right? So everyone is talking about it. It just feels like we can't really talk about anything else. There isn't really anything else to talk about. It's just the scary shit that's happening in the world. So let's talk about, there's a lot more there, but I wanted to frame that as kind of the context within which we're operating here and why it's so urgent. And I'd love to spend really the rest of the time talking in different ways about how we feel that clowning has something to offer, some way to address these different levels of challenge that we're experiencing. And I'd love to hear, first of all, about the specifics, right, of actual projects, trainings, initiatives, whatever. I'd love to hear about those. And I think that people listening would love to hear about those as well. And then maybe we can move into sort of talking more, more abstractly or conceptually about sort of ideas or for the future. What is it that's happening right now? So Robyn, what do you what are you noticing in your own clown world that is of interest? What practices are being explored? What examples are there of recent clowning activism that seems to be maybe effective, and why?
Well, one thing that's happening is what training that I run with Hilary Ramsden, which is the Nomadic Rebel Clown Academy. And we've created a 5-day training, but like a space to take people from simple clown into public space, building an understanding of public space and how the effect we have on it, or permission to be there, or understanding of the rules, and then taking the clown as a form of creative activism into those spaces. And that's, I guess, based on my own research since discovering the Clandestine Insurgent Rebel Clown Army and the work they were doing, and then taking my own stuff to the street, and and just realizing how the impact a clown can have in those spaces, and having experience working in creative activism, and yeah, trying to sort of marry those two with like the sensibilities of like strategic planning and taking clowns in a strategic way, because very often they can bring a lot of chaos and a lot of bigness and wildness, and these are can be very sensitive spaces. So we've done a lot of that research. So that's where I feel like a lot of what I'm seeing, the potential for the clown to sort of sneak in and into the gaps is in that space and that research in that way. But aside from that, I see in every town, lots of little gaggles are forming. People are looking for another way to be, something that gives them that energy to get out in the street, and some little gatherings. And I think that's it. It's just about keeping a sense of a little community that are ready to respond to things that come up. And that's literally why I started the Bristol Clown School, and I've continued this work, as being, ready to mobilize as a moment arises. And so, yeah, that's what I found some years ago. It's like, it was quite, at the time, space was very niche.
Yeah.
We were talking about the climate crisis, which also felt very far away, but now that and everything else is coming in tidal waves, continuous waves. And we just, I felt like we were in training, ready to mobilize for anything that came up. And last year we had these riots and these far right groups descending on towns and locations, and Bristol is brilliant. It's got a brilliant history of protest, brilliant history of getting out on the streets and responding. And it was an amazing day where like all of Bristol came out to be in that space to meet the far right who had planned to come, who never turned up, as it were. But just seeing this intersection, and we brought we had the clowns ready on hand for that quick mobilization to respond.
And I know that something that they didn't have the enemy there to respond to, but did they end up doing something?
Well, it was such a densely packed space with people of all, and it wasn't the left and the right. It was everyone. It was really diverse. It just felt like Bristol in a very felt like amazing and like a festival vibe. But we were all there kind of looking for what we were meant to be doing and where to go, and and we just came through as a little gaggle of clowns and just interrupted, and that space brought a moment of connection for people who, I guess, there was a sort of sense of disconnection in some ways. They were there to respond to an enemy that never turned up. But
it's an interesting question to me, whether we should, as clowns, go into protests with a kind of plan, like to what extent you plan things, when you're working towards some kind of intervention or activist clown moment, do you lean more towards, or what does it look like to plan that? How planned is it? How choreographed is it versus improvisatory, I guess?
For the work I've done, I try to plan and create a safe space for the people as possible. So that means getting ready together. It might mean collectively having a costume that unites us, some calls, some ideas of games that we're going to play, how we will move, and agreements for how we come back together to move on really quickly.
Yeah.
And we'll also have someone, if it's not me, someone on the outside just looking, kind of being there as an extra set of eyes, looking for opportunities, but also any danger points or pinch points for the group. So yeah, I think I try to really bring that planning into, so we look after each other and we're clear when it begins and when it ends, and we don't lose anyone.
Is there usually somebody there who's not in clown?
Yeah, if I'm doing the training, I'll be on the outside. But if I'm playing, I sometimes ring in my husband, who's been very well versed at, really well versed at jumping into these protest spaces with us. Yeah.
And great. Abby, what about you? Like, what's going on in your world at the moment? Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, I'm starting to build Rebel Clown training. I've done 2 intensives here in St. Augustine where we did day-longs, where we worked in the studio in the morning, did makeup together, then did outings in the afternoon. And in St. Augustine, we're having a pretty, I mean, it's a pretty low risk situation here. There are ICE officers around, but we haven't been addressing them directly. What we've been doing is more of a parody of ICE officers, where we go out as nice encouragement officers. And I created a bit of propaganda that we bring with us, which is just, I made these citations, these nice citations where we just go out and that looks backwards, but we give people some nice encouragement, and then on the back of this there's information about what's going on with ICE and who you can contact to.
Can you read some of that out? I'm really curious. I just love the playfulness of the language.
It says, nice citation, you are hereby cited for being nice. How you are nice, cool look, handsome/beautiful, kind with friends, partner, dream team, family, friends, inspiringly unique, show-stopping smile, eyes, or blank, and other. And it's nice encouragement for nice people. And, we just kind of go up to people and say, excuse me, sir, we're out here giving citations to people for being nice. And I couldn't help but notice that you were incredibly nice. This is how you're nice. And here you are, here's your citation, and keep up the good work. And, actually we haven't been commenting on the political aspect of it. So I'm not sure even how the politics are landing with people.
Yeah. I was going to ask how are people responding to this?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you go out as a clown, you're going to have 3 kinds of responses. You're going to have people who just find you abhorrent and want nothing to do with you and will turn the other way and run. You have people who just ignore you. They just do not see you at all. And then you have people who are just like so excited to see you. And so we've been meeting at the Third Space Improv Theater, which is really near our historic downtown. And from there, we can walk up to the historic district where there's a lot of people gathered around. There's a lot of, people outside painting and tourists. And, we've had, we were spit on one time. So, someone from a balcony spit on one of us one time. But we've also had just done wild dancing in the streets with people and taking pictures with children and, a helping car, directing traffic, that sort of thing. Just whatever occurs, we've been doing these little missions.
You're wearing noses and makeup and costume? Are you united in those ways?
Yeah, we are. Although we discovered last time that the red nose, a bunch of us started to get condensation inside the red nose. It was a little humid and we were kind of, dripping out. And so it made me think that we should go to paint it on, especially, if we end up in a more high risk situation where there's tear gas or anything like that. It doesn't seem like such a good idea to have a little container on the end of your nose that could collect that. So
Right. Could the red nose become like a gas mask?
I don't know. I found it was steamy. I mean, it didn't seem to be protective.
Not in a good way. No.
Yeah.
I mean, you say it's not political, but people know, they get the connection, right, between ice and nice. You know, I'm sure that's there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they get it in the moment, but they will be getting it after if they take a look at what we handed them.
Oh, yeah. Surely they get. Well, yeah. I mean, if they see it written down, they'll get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice. I guess it's nice. Do you do that? I imagine you do this, Robyn, as well, where you have a kind of you know, there's a kind of a concept or a kind of a theme that's, yeah, like you mentioned costumes, like finding some kind of way to connect the visual or, you know, the aesthetic of the clown. So we're not just clowns kind of wandering around. There's some
uniting force. Yeah, we do this in our training, and in the training there's an opportunity for the students to try lots of different things. So we've seen lots of ways of being out there. There's the clowns that go out with a little story or some kind of play they show people. Yeah. There are some that are doing tasks with the public. You know, we've had clowns go out and congratulate the people, the unsung heroes, the people doing the everyday work like bin collection and driving buses, you know, and so they're going out with the kind of task to, you know, applaud everyone and give them a little moment off, give them little massages. And we've had clowns who've just gone with to protest themselves, and so they play out little repeated scenes with a bit of choreography, and you know, and we always like pushing them. How do we, how do you engage with the audience? How do you invite participation? How could it be more political? Right. How does it help people? What next? Because that can be quite a big thing. We might go out with a big idea, and then the people want to know. And we talked about this the other day, like, well, now what? Which is great, Abby. You have those little citations that have what next on the back that people literally walk away with. So.
Yeah. So there is a sort of there's sort of these two elements to it. One is like the connecting, you know, that finding that kind of playful connection that's just a human thing, right? That's in some ways devoid of political content. And then there's what are we trying to say, or how, you know, how can we make a difference, which is more of the activism. It's sort of interesting, like where the meeting point between those two things. And is it a problem if it goes sort of one way, too much one way or the other? Like, is that a balance you're trying to strike? I don't know who I'm asking. Just anyone have a thought on that?
I'll just say really quickly, then you go, Abby. But, you know, we are always in research, so the clown fails. So we're always like, did that work? And we're really happy to sort of roll out again and get it right the next time. And so, yeah, if it does twist, like go one way than the other. And, you know, and it's also going to be cultural where we're doing the work. You know, some people might have an experience of clowns, or they might not know how to deal with street theater, engage with it, or, you know, they might not have encountered that before. So yeah, a lot of factors can affect whether something's effective in the moment or not.
Yeah. Abby, any thoughts on that question? Or feel free to answer a different question that's a better one if you like.
Well, it's an interesting question. I think that you know, I don't know. I think about Sue, and you're talking about stage performance, and she says, you know, don't come out with an idea, don't come out with an agenda, or you're just going to ruin your show. You know, as soon as you do that, you're telling people what they should think, and you're not giving them the experience of encountering it themselves. But on the other hand, I think that there is a political necessity in the moment, and you know, some people say, no, clowns should not be political. If you're doing politics, you're not doing clown. And I disagree. I think you can do both. I think that, you know, you were saying in your intro, we're kind of the original free speech people, clowns. Like, we're the ones who said the things that that others, you know, couldn't say or afraid to say. And I was emailing some people about this this talk, and one of the things I said was that, you know, one of the things we explore is clown is a practice of resistance to status quo hegemonic control of the body. You know, like, there's something really just, you know, or to say that simply, it's a practice of becoming free. You know, there's we have very there's very strict social mores about how you're supposed to act in public or in private, with people you do know, with people you don't know. But the clown is not subject to those rules. You know, we when we put on that nose, we put on the makeup, we put on the costume, we become this we become an archetype, and we become a channel for that archetypal energy, which is really an energy of freedom and expression and breaking the rules. So you know, that in itself is political. Someone in the Indivisible group was saying, like, you can't resist the political. The political is at your doorstep. You know, it's in the everyday. And even just the way that we represent our bodies in public space is political. How we adhere or don't adhere to rules, how we restrict ourselves, or how we open ourselves up to connection and to play and to openness. And the clown in public space does it so radically. You know, it's you see this clown and you don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know what they might do. You don't know what you might do if you engage with them and you open up and play with them. But you know, it's going to be unexpected and hopefully delightful.
There was something, Robyn, you said about satire and how tricky it is right now, because that, you know, satire is also like a really strong part of the tradition of political clowning. This ability to kind of ironically mimic or, you know, ridicule people who are corrupt or, you know, wrongdoing in some way, particularly people in authority. And you were saying that now it's gotten so extreme in the world that satire is not really working anymore. It's because that, you know, we can't get more extreme than what's actually happening.
There's no more to reveal. They're revealing themselves, and they don't care. They don't give. Yeah, they sort of seem beyond caring. So yeah, I think that moves us into a space of the surreal and the absurd being perhaps more powerful. And you know, the Portland frogs are a great example of that. And, you know, we can call that the next clowning. You know, there was images just as Portland was kicking off of the Clandestine Insurgent Rebel Clown Army going Portland right now. And I think, you know, some people thought that was literally happening, but I think it was like, Portland, like, this is your opportunity, your moment. And up popped these frogs, and they just so suited the meaninglessness of it, or you know, the absurdity.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
We lost you for a second, but you're back.
Am I back? The clown gods. They basically telling me to shut up. Anyway, yeah, the absurdity of the frogs is just speaking to the absurdity of what they were saying as the truth of what was going on there in Portland.
I wonder why they chose frogs.
That was the one that was in the and there's also well, there's the frog was also that image, right, for the far right. There was Pepe the Frog. There's a slight link to that. But it might have just been what was available in the costume shop that afternoon. Could very easily have been a hippo. Abby, or
do you have a theory about why frog?
I did read an interview with the guy who started it, and he had a frog costume. So that's what he did. I don't think he was aware of Pepe the Frog, but certainly that was in the zeitgeist. And so there's some kind of magic that happened there, that's the symbol that got chosen, I think.
I was also talking to somebody the other day who was from the Dominican Republic, and they were saying that the frog has this very holy, sacred kind of significance there. Like there's rituals, around frogs, around the frog energy. It's a mystical kind of thing, and it's about change and transformation and the psychedelics, right? There's a frog, there's a psychedelic thing.
And maybe they were just reclaiming their image, not for something awful.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
And there's and Aristophanes, of course, which we all know about.
No, I don't.
Tell us about Aristophanes and the frog, Barnaby.
Well, he wrote a play. He was a Greek dude, playwright. And he wrote a play called The Frogs, which is a political satire. And the frogs are, the crazy, ridiculous representation of the politicians croaking. So it goes back a long way, but it obviously has nothing to do with all of that. It's just random. Thank you. Frogs remind us that sometimes it takes a big leap.
Yes, it does.
I'm enjoying the comments in the chat here because Victoria said, the absurdity of what Abby is describing reminds me of Barnaby. And I read that and I was like, what? What are you trying to say? And then the next message says, sorry, continuing, of Barnaby's comment that reality is so extreme that satire isn't enough. It's a playful medium, this chat thing. You guys can have fun in the chat there, saying things, and then I mean there's irony, right? You can say something and you actually be saying the opposite of that thing. And then there's absurdity, where you kind of go over the top. You go so over the top that it's almost not readable anymore. It's not really meaningful anymore. So I quite like that we've got into this space where we don't, it's the post-truth era, right? So we might as well all just get very absurd. Or do we have an accountability? Do we have a responsibility to bring us back to what is true and what is real?
I think there's so many versions of truth these days. There's something about coming back to yourself and back to what's here. I think there's that lovely idea of the relationship of the clown and their partner and the audience, and that sort of triangle, and like keeping a balance and making sure you're connected. So I've recently taken social media off my phone because I was out there and I was just getting depressed and overwhelmed. And so I just came back to just look after what's here. And then what can I do that's immediately around me? How's my partner? How's my partner? How's the, just
your partner or your clown partner?
Your partner, who you're playing with, who you're connecting with. Yeah. The community as a partner, what's kind of more local.
Yeah. So this brings us to the topic of, which I wanted to get to, which is more about the mental health, right? And the clown's ability or clowning's potential to support us energetically and emotionally, spiritually, in a way that supports our ability to protest or just, navigate this tricky time, without actually having to clown on the streets, right? So there's like activist clowning on the one hand, and then there's the power and energy and the therapeutic potential of clowning to as you said, to kind of bring us back to ourselves. Maybe this brings us to talk a little bit about SCAMPS, Abby, and is that partly the function of that? And could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think so. That was a really interesting question. My mind was going in all different directions when you were asking it. I was like, oh, yeah, there's this and there's that and there's this. But yeah, with SCAMPS in particular, you know, that's a monthly meeting that we have, and it's a lot of people say that it's really just a touchstone of inspiration for them. That, you know, they're feeling really down about everything that's happening, and that in participating in that meeting, they feel some you know, surge of energy and joy and inspiration from being together. And, you know, I always start that meeting with a little bit of clown aesthetics, I call them. We just, you know, we're just kind of working on loosening up the body, because we can just get so tense. And, you know, when we're upset about things, we start to hold all this tension everywhere. And that really restricts our emotional flow and our ability to be open and responsive. So, you know, we just do some really basic, just kind of, you know, shaking things out, loosening things up, moving, getting the cricks out of the neck, and, you know, opening up the heart. And then the sharing is so beautiful, what everybody's doing. And I was mentioning in our pre-talk that usually when people are sharing, they start by saying, well, this isn't clown, but this is what I did. And it, you know, it really is a space for creativity, of creative expression of all kinds. And when you were talking about the frogs, Robin, I was thinking, is that clown? Is it really clown? Does it matter if it's really clown? You know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but there's really just like a playfulness to it that there's something so healing about play. There's something so restorative about being able to play with these things. And I know I've seen in some activist spaces they're against clowns coming into the activist spaces. And, you know, as you were saying, Robin, they can be very sensitive spaces, and maybe we don't want someone coming in and being breaking taboos and being absurd in the middle of those spaces. But maybe we need it, you know, maybe we do need to be laughing at ourselves as well as pointing out the foibles of others. In the last Indivisible meeting we had, one of the gentlemen ended by singing a song that they've been using, which is "It's Okay to Change Your Mind." And they've been singing this at the ICE protests to the ICE officers. It's okay to change your mind. You know, there can be this aspect of like, of waiting for the enemy, of creating the enemy, or of recognizing that really there is no enemy, that we're all foolish, that we've all been duped on a very deep level, and that there's no real shame in waking up to that and changing your mind. Like maybe there is some shame to having gone along with this harmful farce, but to wake up to that and to recognize it and to experience our shame is actually really cathartic and healing, which is fundamental to clown.
Robin, do you find this as well, that there are people in the activist world who just like, no, we don't want that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's for the same reasons, finding their issue sensitive and uncertain if a group of clowns will bring that sensitivity to that space. So yeah, I always say, like, to enter very delicately and start at the edges where the clown is the most powerful, really, is in the liminal space, the space in between, and to just feel it out, feel what is the space like? What does it need? Like, how do we serve the space? And Amrita Dhaliwal had a great question, like, who are you centering when those clowns arrive? So a noisy group of clowns, you know, maybe centering themselves rather than the issue. So to arrive and to feel out, we went to one protest, and again the far right didn't turn up, and so we were there with the protesters we were in support of, and then we suddenly felt like, oh, our presence here feels like a mockery of them, and this doesn't feel right. So we just had to like move ourselves to the edges, and then we found the police to play with.
Mm.
to find the right space for us to exist, because we're just so aware of what, like being aware of the clown, its image, its story, it's all these things that clowns inherently are, like we like the clown plays and mocks and parodies. So be careful when you go in to how are you there? Does it look like you're there to mock or parody? What's there? You know, a big question we had was like, how can clowns be with the grief of what's happening in Gaza? How do we turn up to that space? Can we also be be sad, be in grief as a group of clowns?
Yeah. It's interesting because it's almost like this similar kind of dichotomy as there is in kind of clowning more generally, between, I don't know, let's say a sort of more raucous kind of joke driven sort of circus clowning, let's say, and I'm making some generalizations here, but on one hand, and then sort of more I don't know, absurd or abstract or connected kind of existential clowning that doesn't need to be funny always, right? That can be much more about sorrow or fear or whatever are different kinds of emotions, and it's clowning is defined in a different way. There is a different, I think there is a kind of a difference of approach within the clown world, and that seems to then be also exist in the clown activism world, where you can be very overt and very political and have a very clear message, or be ridiculing one side or the other. And then you can also go in with a kind of, I don't know, just an openness to feel and to connect and not be the center of attention.
Yeah, I really felt that when going into those spaces of like, oh, my clown wants to connect with everyone, but that's not what that was particularly the ones around Gaza. Like, yeah. So if that's about me, it's about serving the space. So if it doesn't feel right, if you're not serving the space, and then
it reminds me a little bit of like Patch Adams. They do these humanitarian clown missions, and I've never been on one, but I speak to people who've done them, and they go to these towns like in Peru and different places around the world that are experiencing either some extreme emergency or poverty, and they just kind of they don't put on a show, they just kind of connect with people. And they find out what's going on, and then they help. They sort of end up painting houses or doing public service projects or whatever, but they're sort of in clown, and it's just about connecting with people. Like, what is the need? I feel like something with clowning is what is the need right now? Where do I need to be? What do I need to do? As opposed to coming in with an idea. Like you said, Abby, right? Entering with a preconceived idea of what I want to say, what I want to do,
right?
Versus just arriving and being open to the moment. But that's scary.
Yeah, that's why I really like the nice citations, is they give us something to do that has a purpose while giving us a lot of freedom to just connect with people. And yeah, I'm I'm having a lot of thoughts about this, because I've been so excited. I'll use that word, Barnaby. Excited. I've been so excited to develop this training, and I'll just also say that Giovanni Fusetti says that excitement is fear without breathing. So breathe.
Oh, yeah. I don't think only he says that. I've heard a lot of people say that.
Right. So, but I think that for me, a large part of what I'm doing, this second workshop that I did, I really went deep into contemplative dance practice, which comes from the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, kind of where it came into Naropa University. And it has a lot to do with just sensing, you know, working on choreography from a very human level, you know, like we can sit, we can lay down, we can stand, we can walk, we can gesture with an arm, we can repeat a movement that another person is doing, we can mimic, we can pick up influence, we can set down influence, and all these different ways of just moving, experiencing movement in our bodies, and also like slowing down to a point where we're sitting and we visualize in a space what we want to do, and then we go and enact that and then build ensemble work from that, so that it's really going very, very deep into the body to discover what the body wants to do. And then there's also things about, you know, you're also thinking about disciplines of seeing, you know, like how do I see myself in space? How do I see the ensemble moving together in space? How does the audience see us? What is the script that we're creating? What's the score that we're creating? So, you know, you can get very technical when you're doing freestyle action if you're keeping all these kinds of these things in mind. But really, what I'm working to do is just is to help unlock that awareness in people of what their own impulses are, what the impulse of the group is altogether. What is the space calling for you to do, you know, so that when you're out on the street and you see that statue, you know you want to go sit on its feet, or, you know, you come into an open courtyard and all of a sudden you're all doing airplanes because that's what the space is calling for, you know. So there's this kind of dichotomy of discipline and playfulness, where when you develop the discipline and you have you know, it's like playing a musical instrument or something. You learn your scales and then you can create melodies.
Yeah, but the chops, like the ability to do all those things you just mentioned, are pretty advanced technical skills. Like they take years to develop. And
yeah,
that's it. So I'm curious, as you were hearing that, Robyn, do you yeah, what thoughts do you have about like how skilled technically are the people that you work with, and how do you equip them with those kind of awarenesses to go out into the street?
Yeah, we do something very similar. We start with a day that's just to be in public space as a witness, just to notice the rules and what's already implicitly dictated by the space, and then how do we carefully and lightly interrupt that and disrupt it, and then how do we do that from like invisibly to, you know, which might be a big deal for someone who's never been exposed, never had a witness of the public, you know, to do something they think is like that makes them more visible, or break a rule in public space. Before we put the clown nose on, because once the clown nose comes on, you know, they're away. But yeah, I love what you're saying, Abby, that like we bring all our training has a lot of that cushioning around the training, as well as like simple clown training is bringing in like these things around choreography, around embodied practice, dance. I use some Buto as well, anything that brings the sensing and the listening deeper between each other. And you said the space, and I think that richness of that training means we're creating, a sort of more, a clown with some more depth than I think what was happening at points with the Clandestine and Insurgent Clown Army is that people were just getting a red nose, a wig and makeup and just heading onto the street going, I'm a clown. And that's just, and that's just an aesthetic, that's just a mask. But there's this deeper training that's required, and that we are like kind of demanding of like this time in our training, is that we don't just rush to the street, that we bring a more of a theatrical, a more embodied, a more, because I think theatre training is so wonderful. It's such a gift for all of us that have done it, but to share that with activists or anyone is just it's just a wonderful richness to the toolkit of the performer's body, you know, that is then a clown. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just add that, you know, the students that I've worked with have really felt so, I mean, after the workshop, they're just so exuberant. And, you know, during the workshop too, they're like, I haven't moved like this. I haven't experienced my body or my emotions like this in so long. It's so powerful and transformative. And then to go and bring that on the street and connect with people is just really exhilarating for people to have that kind of connection and play with strangers. And, you know, you come away from that saying, we really brightened so many people's days and we had so much fun and we did something positive. And, you know, I think you can do that with just a little bit of training, but I think that you can go really deep with it. And I'm excited to think about what an ensemble that continues to work together could, how they could start to move together and think together, feel together. It's really just, it's beautiful.
So you're going to be going and doing some workshops potentially, Abby, around the country. Are there any dates and locations set up yet?
No, I don't have, I don't have any dates yet, but I've been talking to David Brightdell at the LA Clown School and another gal up in upstate New York. And I've had some contact with people in other places like Maine and Michigan and Texas, and of course Boulder, and I'd love to come back to Portland and reconnect with the clowns I used to play with in Portland.
You used to live in Portland, and you have a group that you ran.
Yeah, we had the Stumptown Clown Collective.
Yeah,
we did deep play series and you know, put on shows. And Portland is such a great place for clown. There's so many beautiful clowns in Portland.
But if people want to get into this work, what else could they do? Like if they're in Europe, they could come take your courses, Robyn.
Yeah, come and join me. We're in Valencia next month and about the time of Clown-versation.
Okay, well, it's okay. If you go do the workshop with Robyn, I let you off. You don't have to come to Clown-versation because it'll be awesome. Are there places still available in that workshop?
Still places on that one. And if you just head over to my website as well, I put other opportunities there. We're working with some Swiss activist clowns who have a training in Lucerne in August that I think people can still apply to be part of as well. But that's for a deepening practice. So if you've worked with me, if you've done some of our Rebel Clown training, you can jump on that, because the aim with that one is to go even deeper. We're looking more at bringing the bouffon in a lot more. That's also part of the training we do, is having the street smarts of the bouffon in the kind of rebel clown mix. And we're also looking at makeup and its potential, makeup and costume, but also the makeup as a potential to deflect the surveillance technology, and how can we use the clown makeup to do that. Yeah. So
that's an interesting twist.
Maybe. I think it's possible.
Like that reminds me of the V for Vendetta, you know, the masks, so that nobody knows who you are.
Yeah, so if the clown can interrupt and disrupt, maybe the clown makeup can interrupt that surveillance as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Abby, what about you? What in the States, what can people do to get more involved? If they're listening and they're like, oh, I really want to do, you know, I'm a clown, I want to get more involved in activism, or the other way around.
Well, anybody can email me if you'd like to be in touch. I'm rebelclownarmy@proton.me. And that Indivisible meeting that happens every second Tuesday is a really good touch point. And also, I have a really open source view of everything I'm developing. So if you want any of the PDFs that I'm creating for the NICE citations, I'm working on some documents about how to support a gaggle in your area. If you want any of those documents, just contact me. I'll send them to you. And of course, I'm happy to travel and teach. So if you have group and you want to have a workshop where you are, just be in touch and I will come to you.
Beautiful. I'm going to put that. I think that's the SCAMPS.
That's SCAMPS, yeah.
Link that I just put in there. And feel free to put your own websites and things in there. So, I mean, I think we're gonna have to wrap this up soon, you guys, because we've been talking for like an hour now already. I feel like we just started. I'm wondering if there's anything that either of you would just like to finish with or bring into the conversation before we finish that we haven't covered. I know there's a lot.
Oh gosh. I would just say that, you started, Barnaby, by saying that people do feel depressed by the situation and they do want to just kind of hide from it. And that's totally understandable. But it's been proven that if you do anything at all, you're going to feel better. So it doesn't have to be clown, it doesn't have to be testing loudly. Anything you decide to do is going to help you feel like you're doing something. Like there's one gentleman who created an armband that said, if you voted for Trump, you're responsible to keep him in line, and just anything like that, anything that you feel called to do it.
Yeah. Robyn, any
yeah, I'm inspired by what Abby's doing and the things that have just made me go, yeah, I just think steel in this work and with activism, we don't need to be like unique, just if there's a great idea, just go and take it and try it out, and it'll change. But yeah, if there's some really great examples out there of creative activism, creative resistance, clowns and activism, all kinds. So, Beautiful Trouble's a great resource as well. Just take some of those ideas and just go and try them. Anything that can inspire you, and just the everyday activism of just going out and wear your shoes on the wrong feet one day, or walk backwards for a part of your journey home, something that just interrupts your day and how you're seeing the world, I think can be powerful.
Yeah, right. And that links back to what Abby was saying about the SCAMPS group. When you have your calls, Abby, and everyone checks in with something that starts, this isn't clown, but I did ... What are some of the things though that they say? I'm curious.
Someone had gone to a grief ceremony at a church for Palestine, or people are checking in at the Everglades Detention Center. There's people standing witness there, so they're going there and singing songs. Or they went to an ICE protest and wore a great hat. There's all kinds of things.
Yeah, I think this is a great place to finish the conversation for today. And in that place of, we're accepting, like, clown doesn't have to look a particular way. There is that kind of clowning that looks like clowning with red noses, and some people do that on the streets, and that's really important. And there's also just bringing that clown energy, intention, awareness, state, connection into whatever you do in a way that feels risky at your level, right? At where you are, that meets you where you're at. Beautiful. Guys, thank you so much for coming on, for giving your time to talk about your work, and just thanks for your work. It's exciting.
Thanks for your work, Barnaby, which is also exciting.
I agree. Thank you. So inspiring. I saw Robyn on your podcast, Barnaby, and I was so inspired. I was just, thinking about starting this up again. And, I think you're, Robyn, the work you're doing is incredible. Barnaby, you're helping people make all these great connections. It's fantastic. We're doing it.
Yeah, we're doing what we're good at, I guess. We're just trying to find what we're good at and then just do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Follow your pleasure, just like a clown, right?
Yeah.
I saw Victoria asking for my email, so I'm just going to hold this up again because I don't see how to write in the chat. So there it is.
I can write it in. Rebel Clown Army at proton.me.
Thank you, Barnaby. And was Victoria on your podcast a couple weeks ago talking about Seattle trouble?
Yeah. She came on when somebody cancelled, and I had some Clown Spirit villagers come on, 3 or 4, and we had a great conversation. So she's in Seattle.
Yes, I've got her website up on my phone. It's on my list to contact.
Oh,
her.
yeah.
I'm going to be in touch with you, Victoria. We'll talk.
Yeah, she's awesome. I think they're doing some great work.
Super cool stuff what they're doing.
Yay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Look forward to having you on the show again soon.
Thank you, Barnaby. So great to chat with you more, Abby.
Bye,
Likewise.
Bye, Abby.
Bye.
All right. It's another wrap, folks. Did you enjoy that? Let me know in the chat. Give me some likes. Give me some love. I'd love to hear how you found that, what landed for you, what particular moments or ideas were inspiring. For me, it's always, it's sort of like there are these moments in a given podcast or whatever it is you're reading, like there's this particular idea or thing that sticks. And I'm curious what that is and how it's going to manifest in your life. So please join me again next week when I'll be with somebody else. And I can't think who that is right in this moment, but it'll be interesting. Oh, yes, actually. It's one of my Clown Plus episodes where I talk to somebody who's not actually in the clown world, but is outside the clown world. So come and check that out. It's going to be really awesome. And until then, have an amazing week. And of course, as always, keep clowning. It's just a conversation with a fellow clown. It's not very serious, we're clowning around. It's really just a clown-versation.